Okay, so now we're going to move on from the background to the first step on to our pets, and that is going to be the eyes. I'm going to start with the eyes, and like I said before, this tutorial works whether or not you have a cat or a dog or a horse or pretty much any animal with eyes. And we're going to start off with our small round brush, like so. And look at your photo. As we move along, we're going to be using that reference photo very frequently. So I'm always going to be checking back and looking at the photo. So, looking at the eyes, you may notice that there are very, very dark outlines around either the entire eye or a partial eye. So for this doggy, we've got what I like to call eyeliner across the top of both eyes, and we have more of a highlight along the bottom. See how it's lighter gray down here, nice and dark, and even I see a medium color right above the black eyeliner. So just get really familiar with what is in your photo. Is it all around black, maybe brown around the eyes? Is it darker on top or the bottom? Is it lighter on top of the bottom? Just really take notice in what's there. And then take a look over at your canvas and check out some of the lines that are there. Sometimes your eyeliner will actually just be tracing the line around the iris, the eyeballs, and then the space above might be your highlight, depending on how thick your eyeliner is. So I generally recommend the eyeliner go around the entire shape of the round eye. So we're going to be taking black and going around that first. Now, it's very important to get your brush prepared to do very tiny lines. So I'm going to teach you a technique that's simply called rolling the brush. So you want to wet the brush a little bit, lightly wipe it off on the napkin on its side. And we start with pulling off some of the paint to the side here. So I'm just making a little flat area where there's just a little bit of paint here, not a big blob of paint that we have. So after that, you're going to take your brush and roll it on its side in the smaller amount of paint. That way we are getting a nice sharp fine tip of paint on the brush, versus if you just dipped it into the paint, you would get a lot of paint on the tip of the brush and you would lose the ability to do very fine lines. So as we move forward, you're going to be using this technique quite often to get into these tiny little spaces, do lots of your detailed work. Okay, now that we've got our brush rolled in our black paint, nice fine tip here, we're going to start with the eyeliner of the pet. A couple tricks to steady your hand is one, to put your elbow on the table or something solid, could even be your knee, so that way you have an anchor and your arm isn't just floating around wiggly. And or if you don't have that, you can also put your pinky down on the canvas, make sure not to stick it in your wet background, and then we're going to start with our eyeliner, barely touching the canvas here, trying to keep that shape of the eye as best we can. And you might find you need to reload your brush. So whenever you're running out of paint, roll it back in and then move on. So because I have a furry dog here, part of the eye is covered with fur. So I'm simply going to just omit painting the eyeliner in that area. Rolling the brush again, anchoring. Oop, Here we go. Taking it around. I'm looking over at my picture every now and then, making sure I'm in the right spot, not going over the highlight area, but just simply putting on the eyeliner. For that side, I think I'll go ahead and put some dark paint because I can see there is a little bit of darkness underneath here. All right, so once you've got your eyeliner, we're going to move on to the highlight part. So again, check your animal's eyes. There normally is on one side, either below or above, a bit of a lighter highlight. So the light is hitting this doggy's bottom lid. So I'm going to make a little bit of gray. Still using my small brush, haven't rinsed it. Just added a little bit of white onto the black that was already on the brush. Rolling it around, mixing it up. And I might go just a little lighter for this guy. Get the color right. All right, so roll it in the color. For your highlight, it could potentially be, if you have an animal that has more of a pinky brown skin tone, you might be mixing pink and brown together. So we're going across the bottom here with the highlight all the way up to that eyeliner. And then on the top, it's not as bright as the highlight here, but there is a bit of area here that's a little bit in between my highlight and my low light. So I'm going to go ahead and darken my highlight color just a little bit with black. Wanting an in-between color, and I'm going to go on the very top over the eyeliner. And it's a not too terribly noticeable difference, but just enough. So the eyeliner still sticks out. And if you have a furry dog or cat even, sometimes adding extra dark fur works out as a first layer, and then you can come back and do texture on top, but we'll get more into that later. So next on the eyes is going to be the irises. Okay, is the colored part of the eye. So for this doggy, he's got these nice kind of brown red eye color. You might have blue eyes, yellow and green eyes. There's many different colors, so I always recommend to mix your eye colors first. Typically, there's going to be two colors to mix, a highlight and a low light color. So as you can see, the light is hitting the eye in some places, and then there might be a little shadow or a darker rim around the eye. So just take a look at what's there and mix some colors up that you like for those. Let's see, for this guy I'm gonna do A little bit of red ochre into my lighter brown so I get this kind of rich brown color. Very nice. Take your time, get the color right, to your liking at least. There may not be a right or a wrong here. Okay, so I've got a nice chocolatey brown and then a highlight here. So because I've got the darker color on my brush, I'm going to start there, rolling the brush again, getting a nice fine point. Typically, the darker color is going to be on the rim of the eye and or the top area where there might be a shadow from the lid of the eye or the fur. So I'm taking the darker color. I'm going to put it on the outer edges, the left and the right in this case, keeping the bottom a little bit lighter. So I'm kind of just giving the eyes some parentheses. And while the paint is wet, I'm going to come in with my lighter color. Didn't rinse my brush, just grabbed the lighter color on and go ahead and put that in the rest of the space. I'm noticing for some reason my lighter color is not much lighter at all. So no problem. I'm just going to fill in the space with the color. And then I'm going to take and make an even darker color. And roll that brush, see how that looks. See if we can get that. There we go. Beautiful. So bringing those parentheses back in. Trying to make sure that I cover up all the little white pieces on the canvas. Make sure you're using plenty of paint. And then I'm going to do just a little bit of blending. So I'm going to clean off the brush and go a little bit in between the two colors, back and forth. Softening the edge where one color meets the other. Beautiful. So once you're happy with that, then we're going to go to the pupil. And most of the time the pupil is black. Most of the time, every time. Occasionally, I will tell people to lighten their pupils, but most of the time, black is perfect. And as you can see, I went over the edge just a little bit when I was painting in the irises. So take a look at your picture, and if you went over some of your lines, just do your best to get them about the same size in a circular shape for dogs, and typically in a more oval shape for the kitties. So I'm taking my time. I'm doing the outline first. I've been rolling my brush. Okay. Voila. On to the next. Again, making sure you cover up all the little white bits. Wonderful. So I'm discovering here, I want to darken the eyeliner just a little bit. I feel like I lost some of it along the way. So I'm just going to come in and darken the eyeliner around the tops of his eyes. You can always take a little step back and redo something you might not be happy with. No shame in that. Cool, so I'm finding that creates a lot more pop. And I had a little bit of spots here and there that were still white, so I was making sure I got those covered. Very nice. Okay, so the final part of your eyes is going to be a highlight. Now this is very important. It's going to transform the entire eye, give it some shape, some life. Now look at your picture, and there will always be a side of the eye or a part of the eye that has what I like to call a shiny on it. So the eyes are wet, the light is reflecting off of them. There's going to be an area of the eye that you can obviously tell the light is reflecting on. Now, this dog has quite a bit of reflection going on. You can literally pretty much see the sky reflected in this dog's eyes, which is really cool. And we're not going to paint that in. We're going to simplify here by simply dipping the paintbrush, nice clean brush, dipping it in the white. And we're going to pick a side. Typically, I like to always pretty much go for the left side of the eye. And we're going to put a little white dot. Sometimes you could even make it a little bit of an irregular shape. And then on the same left side of the other eye, pretty much try and do the same shape. Okay, so now you can see that the eyes have more pop. All of a sudden they have a shiny in them. They look a lot more realistic this way. And just take one last look. Is there anything else I'd like to change about this picture? Any little detail I want to add? For this doggy, I'm noticing there's these tiny little highlights in the corner of the eyes, inside of the eyeliner. And so I'm just going to add those in. Cool. And that, my friends, is how we paint eyes. So if you had a kitty cat, pretty much the same thing with the colors of the eyes, the two tones. You want to highlight in a low light color. Maybe just around the rim there's a different color. The pupils will be black and your highlight will be exactly the same on the left side, maybe the right. And that's it.